There's a quiet storm happening in workplaces everywhere. You sit down at your desk. The emails pile up before your second sip of coffee. Slack is blinking. Your manager is breathing down your neck. Deadlines, expectations, performance reviews, office politics. And somehow, you're supposed to stay calm, stay professional, smile. But let's be honest, behind that professional tone, behind the buttoned shirt and polite replies, there's frustration, there's pressure, and often, there's a silent scream that nobody hears. I can't take this anymore. If you've ever felt like that, if you've ever left the office or closed your laptop, feeling more drained than alive, you are not alone. This video is for you. Welcome to the Stoic Philosophy, a space where we explore ancient wisdom and apply it to real, modern life. Not just to sound wise, but to live wisely. And today, we are talking about the place where many of us spend most of our waking hours. Work. More specifically, how can we stay calm, grounded, and professional in the middle of all the chaos? How can we deal with coworkers who test our patience, bosses who never seem satisfied, and goals that keep moving just when we think we've caught up? The answer is not found in another productivity hack or some clever email template. It's found in a philosophy that's over 2,000 years old and more relevant than ever. It's Stoicism, but not the cold, emotionless stereotype people often think it is. Stoicism is not about being numb. It's about being clear. Clear about what matters. Clear about what's in your control. Clear about who you choose to be, even when everything around you feels out of control. In this video, we're going to walk through what it means to be stoic in the workplace. We'll talk about the things the workplace gets wrong and what you can do differently. You will hear a few real-life stories, maybe even recognize yourself in them. And most importantly, you'll get simple, powerful practices to bring into your workday. No matter what kind of job you do, whether you're in a corporate tower, a hospital floor, a school classroom, or working from home, stoic calm is possible. And it's not just possible, it's powerful. So, if you've ever felt like your workplace is draining the life out of you, or that you've lost a sense of purpose or peace in what you do, stay with me. This is not about quitting your job. It's about reclaiming your inner stability, so that no matter what happens around you, you stay calm, you stay steady, you stay you. And if that's something you've been looking for, go ahead and subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy, because we're building something here. A space for strength without shouting, for clarity without chaos, for purpose, even when the world around us forgets it. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. What the workplace often gets wrong. We glorify speed, not stillness. In most offices, speed is seen as a virtue. The faster you reply to emails, the quicker you check off your tasks, the more efficient you look. But here's the hidden trap. Speed often comes at the cost of clarity. You end up doing things just to say they're done, not because they mattered. Stoicism teaches the opposite. It asks us to pause, reflect, respond, not react. But in the modern workplace, stillness is mistaken for laziness, and rushing is celebrated as discipline. That's the first big mistake. We confuse busyness with productivity. Have you ever sat through a long meeting and thought, what was the point of that? You're not alone. The workplace often rewards people who look busy, constantly typing, attending meetings, rushing around. But real productivity isn't about motion. It's about direction. You could be running fast on a treadmill and never go anywhere. Stoicism teaches us to ask, what is essential? And to let go of the rest. But most companies don't ask that. They just keep adding more. We believe emotional control means suppression. You've probably heard this at some point. Leave your emotions at the door. Be professional. Don't take it personally. And while there's truth in staying composed, many workplaces teach us to bottle up our feelings until they explode. Stoicism isn't about suppression. It's about understanding your emotions, naming them, channeling them. A Stoic does not deny frustration. He sees it, understands it, and moves with calm anyway. We treat people like machines. Workplaces love efficiency, but in chasing output, people become numbers. Teams become tools. Individuals become their job titles. You're not marketing. You're not sales. You're a person, with a soul, with values, with struggles. But the modern workplace often forgets that. It demands more without asking how you're really doing. Stoicism, at its heart, never forgets humanity. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, wrote reminders to himself daily. Be kind, be humble, remember the shared nature of humanity. Your workplace might forget that. You shouldn't. We celebrate burnout like a badge of honor. How many times have you heard, "I've been working 14 hours straight. I haven't taken a vacation in 2 years. I'm always reachable." These are said with pride, as if sacrifice is the only proof of worth. But burnout is not bravery. It's a signal. It's your soul saying, something is off. A Stoic knows, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You serve best when you are steady, not shattered. We avoid silence and fear space. Modern workspaces are loud. Constant notifications, meetings back-to-back, open offices, background chatter. Silence is rare and uncomfortable, but silence is where thought lives. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But most of us never get a chance to listen, even to ourselves. We build status, not substance. Climbing the ladder, getting the title, earning the bonus, being seen. There's nothing wrong with ambition, but when status becomes the goal, not the byproduct, something is lost. Stoicism teaches virtue, not titles, is the real measure of success. Are you just rising, or are you rising well? We measure performance, not presence. You might be meeting your targets, but how are you showing up? With kindness, with patience, with focus. Most workplaces don't measure these, but your soul does. The Stoic asks, what kind of person am I becoming through this work? That question is rarely asked in meetings, but it's the most important one of all. We reward those who talk, not those who listen. The loudest voice often wins. The best speaker gets the credit. The smoothest presentation steals the spotlight. But wisdom isn't always loud. Some of the best workers are silent leaders, calm, thoughtful, grounded. Stoicism reminds us, noise does not equal depth. Presence does not require volume. We chase external validation, approval, recognition, praise. They feel good, of course they do, but they're not stable. One day you're celebrated, the next you're overlooked. If your sense of worth depends on your last performance review, or your boss's mood, you will always be anxious. Stoicism teaches, your worth is internal, rooted in how you act, not how others react. If you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, Marcus wrote, realize you have compromised your integrity. We forget that work is not life, it's part of it. Work matters. It gives us purpose. It feeds our families. It helps us grow. But when work becomes your entire identity, you're walking a thin line. A Stoic builds a full life, not just a full schedule. One that includes rest, relationships, reflection. Because in the end, no one ever says on their deathbed, I wish I spent more time in meetings. And here's the truth. Most workplaces may not change. They may keep doing things wrong, but you don't have to. You can bring a different presence into the same room. You can be the stillness in the storm, the clarity in the chaos, the calm in the crisis. And that is where your real power lies. Chapter 2, The Stoic's Mindset at Work. Your mind is your fortress. In a world of ringing phones, shifting deadlines, and unpredictable bosses, your only real control is within. Your thoughts, your responses, your attitude. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus famously said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgment about things. The workplace throws a lot at you, but how you interpret it, that's your power. You can't control your boss, but you can control your tone. Let's be honest. Sometimes your boss is unfair. They might raise their voice, micromanage, or dump last-minute work on your desk. You cannot fix them. You cannot change their habits overnight, but you can choose your tone, your posture, your breath. A Stoic takes a pause before replying, not to suppress, but to select the response that reflects who they are, not how others behave. You You can't control your coworkers, but you can control your expectations. There will always be someone who slacks off, or gossips, or takes credit for work they did not do. The Stoic doesn't waste energy on what they cannot change. Instead, they adjust expectations. They accept that human beings are flawed, including themselves. When you wake each day, Marcus Aurelius wrote, remind yourself that you will meet the rude, the selfish, the jealous. That way, when they appear, you're not shocked. You're prepared. You can't control the workload, but you can control your focus. Sometimes the to-do list is overwhelming, but panic doesn't solve it. Complaining doesn't shorten it. What helps? Focusing on the task right in front of you. One line of code, one email, one client call. Not 20 things at once, just one done well. Stoicism is presence in motion. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Marcus said, just do what lies clearly at hand. Detach from outcomes. Commit to effort. This one's hard. You pour your soul into a project. You stay late. You give your best. And then the client rejects it, or someone else gets the credit. It's frustrating. But here's the Stoic lesson. You own the effort, not the outcome. Seneca put it this way. The wise man looks to the purpose of all actions, not their result. You act with excellence, and let go of what happens next. That's real peace. Criticism is not always an attack. Sometimes it's a mirror. At work, we all face feedback. Some of it's helpful, some of it's harsh, some of it feels like an insult. But the Stoic does not flinch. He listens, he examines, and he asks, is there truth here? If yes, he adjusts. If no, he moves on unshaken. The ego is quick to defend, but the Stoic mindset is not about ego. It's about growth. Ambition is not bad, but must be guided by values. Wanting to rise, that's natural. Wanting to lead, that's powerful. But the Stoic asks, at what cost? If climbing means stepping on others, it's not Stoic. If rising means losing sleep, health, or honesty, it's not wise. True Stoic ambition is guided by virtue. Not just success, but success with soul. Don't gossip. It's noise in your mind. In most workplaces, gossip is currency. People whisper. People speculate. People judge. But when you participate, you lose twice. First, you waste energy. Second, you poison your own peace. The Stoic refrains, not because they are better, but because they are free. Free from the need to belong to that kind of noise. Free from judgment. Free to focus. Your identity is not your job title. This one cuts deep. You are not project manager. You are not assistant. Those are roles, not your identity. A Stoic is always more than their position. They know their values, their virtues. If the job is taken away tomorrow, who are you then? If the answer is unclear, it's time to go inward. Embrace challenges. They shape you. Hard tasks, difficult co-workers, tight deadlines. None of these are fun, but they are opportunities. For patience, for resilience, for self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The Stoic mindset flips the script. Obstacles are not blockages. They are your training ground. Time is your most precious resource. Spend it with wisdom. Your meetings, your conversations, your time scrolling. Every minute counts. The Stoic tracks not just how they spend money, but how they spend their attention. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. Are you giving energy to what matters most, or just reacting to whatever pings next? A Stoic mindset at work is not about being emotionless. It's about being anchored. You feel, you care, but you don't get swept away. You stay calm in the meeting, professional in the storm, centered when everyone else is spinning. And in that stillness, you become unforgettable. Chapter 3. Stories from the quiet professionals. Stoicism isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up in silence. Not every Stoic wears a robe or speaks in philosophical riddles. Sometimes they're the quiet one in the meeting room, the calm voice in a tense conversation. The person who never gossips, never brags, but always delivers. In this chapter, we share stories of people, real professionals, who live the Stoic mindset without calling it by name. They may not quote Marcus Aurelius or Seneca, but they embody the spirit. Calm, steady, anchored in values. Meet David, the project manager who never raises his voice. David works in tech. He leads a team of developers, each with strong opinions and short tempers. The office, a storm of deadlines, delays, and competing egos. But David, he's different. He never yells, never panics. Even when the product breaks or the timeline slips, he speaks slowly, firm but respectful. One time, after a failed launch, his boss stormed into the room, demanding answers. The team froze. David stood up, took responsibility, and calmly outlined a recovery plan. No blame, no excuses, just focus. Later, someone asked him how he stayed so cool. He smiled and said, "I remind myself every morning, I don't control what happens today. I control how I show up." That's Stoicism, in action, in silence. Meet Serena, the assistant who chose grace over gossip. Serena worked under a difficult executive. Sharp words, constant demands, zero appreciation. People whispered about quitting. Some lashed out, some sabotaged. But Serena, she stayed centered. She did her job with excellence. Never complained, never joined the drama. Instead, she quietly created systems to make the office run smoother. She anticipated needs before they were spoken. When the executive was unexpectedly promoted, it was Serena who was asked to stay on, and then promoted herself. Not because she played politics, but because people trusted her calm. "I learned to let my work speak," she later said, "and not let chaos decide who I become." Meet Marcus, the engineer who turned rejection into resilience. Marcus applied for an internal leadership role. He had the experience, the numbers, the backing of his peers, but he didn't get the job. Worse, it went to someone who played the game, the flashy one, the self-promoter. Marcus felt the sting, but he didn't spiral. He congratulated the winner. Then, quietly, he got back to work, even better than before. Months later, a new leader failed. Guess who they turned to next? Marcus, not because he was flashy, but because he was solid. "Control what you can. Let go of the rest," he told a friend that day. "I never lost my job. I just stayed ready." Meet Layla, a teacher who found peace and purpose. Layla teaches in a tough school. Disruptive students, limited resources, endless paperwork. Many burn out. She nearly did, until she found an old copy of Meditations. It wasn't a miracle, but something clicked. She stopped trying to control every student. She stopped taking disrespect personally. Instead, she focused on what she could give: patience, structure, a calm presence. She became the teacher whose room felt like a refuge. Even students who acted out elsewhere behaved better with her. Not because she was soft, but because she was centered. "They still challenge me," she admits. "But now I respond from who I am, not how they act." That's Stoicism, alive in a classroom. These people don't shout philosophy. They live it. They aren't perfect. They have bad days. They feel anger, stress, frustration, like all of us. But they don't let those feelings run their day. They pause, reflect, respond, not out of weakness, but wisdom. They understand what the Stoics taught. You can't control the world. You can't control people. But you can control the way you live. The way you show up, again and again and again. Why do these stories matter? Because they remind us. Stoicism is not an ancient theory. It's a living choice. You do not have to become a monk. You do not have to renounce ambition. You simply have to ask, each day, what kind of person do I want to be, no matter what this job throws at me? Be the steady voice. Be the one others trust. Be the calm inside the chaos. Because when the room shakes, people remember the one who didn't flinch. And when the storm passes, that's who they turn to. These quiet professionals are not saints. They are simply free. Free from reactivity. Free from bitterness. Free to do their best work with purpose, with presence, with peace. And you can be one of them. It starts not with a big change, but a small choice. A moment of awareness, a breath before the reaction, a decision to be guided by values, not moods. That is what a Stoic looks like in real life. Chapter 4. Practical Stoic Habits for the Office. Stoicism is not just a mindset, it's a practice. Ideas are powerful, yes, but without habit they fade. The Stoics didn't just talk about peace, clarity, and virtue. They trained for it, daily, like warriors of the mind. In the modern workplace, your version of the battlefield may be a long Zoom call, a difficult colleague, or a calendar packed tighter than your inbox. So how do you hold on to clarity and calm? Not just once in a while, but every day. You build habits, Stoic habits, quiet, intentional, and powerful. Let's go through them. Start the day with a mental warm-up. Most people roll out of bed into chaos. Emails, notifications, news, noise. But the Stoics began their day with preparation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, people will be rude, selfish, jealous." He wasn't being negative. He was being ready. So take 5 minutes. Sit with your coffee or tea. No phone, no rush. Ask yourself, what might go wrong today? Where might I lose my temper, my patience, my center? And how do I want to respond instead? It's not about predicting disaster. It's about showing up with awareness, not surprise. Use silence as strength. In meetings, we feel pressure to respond fast, to speak first, to have an answer. But silence can be your greatest tool. Pause before reacting. Let people finish their thoughts, even if you disagree. Take a breath before jumping in. That pause, it creates space for clarity. It shows control. It signals calm authority. And often, when you don't rush to speak, what you do say carries more weight. Practice the internal zoom out. A Stoic never gets stuck in a moment. They step back. They look at the bigger picture. So when a coworker sends a passive-aggressive message, when your boss criticizes you unfairly, instead of firing back, try this. Ask, will this still matter next week? Next month? Ask, is this about me or their own struggle? Ask, what's in my control here? What's not? Zoom out. Breathe. Respond, don't react. This habit alone can save you countless emotional hangovers. Write a daily reflection, even just 2 minutes. Journaling sounds dramatic, but it doesn't have to be. 2 minutes, 3 lines. That's it. Ask yourself at the end of the day, what challenged me today? How did I respond? What would I do differently next time? This is how the Stoics grew, not through theory, but review. You are not your worst moment. You are your willingness to learn from it. Even writing, "I was impatient today," helps plant a seed of change. And over time, it grows. Let go of credit. Focus on contribution. One of the quickest paths to workplace misery is chasing praise, recognition, likes, approval. But Stoicism reminds us, that's not in our control. What is in our control? Effort, ethics, consistency, craft. When you stop trying to look good and start trying to do good, you free yourself. You become less reactive. And ironically, people trust you more. They sense your focus, your values. They feel your integrity. Don't tie your worth to your job title. Your role matters, but it's not your identity. You are not just a manager, or a designer, or an assistant. You are a human being, capable of growth, of wisdom, of meaning. The Stoics believed your worth comes from how you live, not from your LinkedIn profile. So when you don't get the promotion, when your idea gets overlooked, when someone else shines instead of you, remind yourself, you're still whole, still worthy, still here to do your best, no matter what room you're in. Practice kindness without expectations. We often give to get. We're polite hoping for praise. We help hoping for return. But the Stoic practice of kindness is unattached. You hold the door not for a thank you, but because that's who you are. You help your team not to get noticed, but because it's the right thing. This kind of quiet kindness, it doesn't always get rewarded, but it builds your character. And one day, when the chaos comes, it's the people of character who stand tall. Keep a stoic anchor on your desk. It could be a quote, a rock, a small statue, something physical, something silent. When your day spins, when you feel anger rising or overwhelm creeping, look at it. Let it remind you. You are not here to win every argument. You are here to live with virtue, to embody calm, to hold your ground. Small symbols, big power. End your workday with intention. Most people collapse into their evening, still checking email, still running on stress. But the Stoic practice is to close the day. Take 5 minutes. Reflect. Acknowledge what went well, what didn't, what you learned. Then let it go. Put a line between work and home. Reclaim your evening. Reclaim your peace. These habits are not for perfect people. They're for honest people. People who are willing to grow, willing to practice, willing to fall and rise again. That's what Stoicism looks like in the office. Not some cold philosophy, but a warm discipline. A guide to being the kind of professional you respect, even when no one's watching. Practice them, one at a time. Let them shape your day. And you'll find that calm is not a gift. It's a habit, a choice, a strength you carry into every meeting, every task, every conversation. And over time, that strength becomes who you are. Chapter 5. Final message. Professional, not perfect. You are not a machine. You're a human. You wake up some mornings exhausted. You walk into the office already drained. You sit through meetings trying to focus, trying to breathe, trying to care. And yet, you still show up. You still try. That is professionalism, not perfection. Not always being polished, but bringing your best, even when your best looks different on different days. And this is the Stoic truth the workplace needs most. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to be honest, to be grounded, to be clear, to be kind, even when it's hard. Perfection is a moving target. Peace is a grounded choice. Perfection will always demand more hours, more results, more recognition. And just when you think you're close, it moves again. But peace says, do your part, do it well, then let go. Peace says, you are enough when you live with integrity, not when everyone claps. The Stoics were never trying to impress a boardroom. They were trying to build a soul. You're going to mess up, and that's part of the journey. You're going to overreact to that one coworker. You're going to miss a deadline. You're going to say the wrong thing in the heat of the moment. The key is not to deny it or defend it. The key is to own it, to reflect, to learn, and to do better. Seneca said, even if we fail, let's try again. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's how we grow. Not by avoiding the fire, but walking through it with our values intact. There's dignity in quiet work, even if no one sees it. You may not be the loudest in the room. You may not always get the credit. But if you bring consistency, clarity, and care, you're changing the culture, even in silence. A true Stoic doesn't need the spotlight. They find meaning in moment itself, in the way they lead their team, in the way they respond to a setback, in the way they show grace when it would be easier to snap. This is the kind of leadership that lasts. Let your values be your compass, not your feelings. Feelings come and go. They spike, they dip, they shift. But your values, they stay. When you're tired, remember why you chose this job. When you're frustrated, remember who you want to be. When you're overlooked, remember what you stand for. Feelings are real, but they're not always right. The Stoic chooses to act from their values, not from the swirl of the moment. You don't need to control everything, just yourself. You don't control office politics. You don't control unfair decisions. You don't control other people's moods, emails, or passive-aggressive tones. But you do control your reaction. You do control your choices. You do control your presence in the room. That's where your power lives. And the more you return to it, the more unshakable you become. Respect is earned by consistency, not charisma. You don't need to be flashy. You don't need to have the best jokes or the perfect pitch. You need to be steady, reliable, clear, and grounded in something deeper than mood or ego. Colleagues come and go. Trends rise and fall. But the quiet professional who does the work holds their values, and supports others, that person becomes the rock. And trust me, every workplace needs that rock. Rest is not weakness, it's renewal. Even Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, reminded himself to rest, because without rest you break. And when you break, you lose the very strength you've worked so hard to build. You cannot serve from an empty cup. You cannot lead from a burned-out mind. Rest is an indulgence. It's wisdom. It's respect for your body, your mind, your mission. So don't apologize for stepping back. Do it with intention and return stronger. Success looks different when your soul is intact. The world may tell you to chase promotions, applause, endless productivity, but the Stoic reminds you, real success is inner stability. You go home at peace with your actions. You speak the truth without cruelty. You face challenges with grace. You lead with purpose, not performance. That kind of success, it lasts, because it's built on something no one can take away from you. You are not perfect. You are professional. You are not robotic. You are human. And it is because of that humanness that your leadership matters. In a workplace of noise, you bring calm. In a culture of rush, you bring clarity. In an age of reactivity, you choose reflection. This is what it means to be a Stoic at work, to bring depth into a shallow world, to bring stillness into a storm, to bring character into your career, not just credentials. So carry this with you day by day. Don't aim to impress, aim to serve. Don't aim to win, aim to endure. Because you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be true. Conclusion, calm is your power. There's something magnetic about calm. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, clear, present. In a world that moves too fast, reacts too quickly, and burns out too easily, calm is your power. It's not passive. It's not weakness. It's not indifference. It is presence with intention, strength under pressure. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows who they are and who refuses to be pulled into chaos. The workplace will test you, with deadlines, with drama, with people who do not care how hard you try. But in those moments, the Stoic path gives you an edge that no title, no performance bonus, no office perk can offer. It gives you control over yourself, your words, your actions, your peace. And that is the kind of power that turns ordinary jobs into meaningful missions. That's the kind of power that transforms not just your work, but your life. So the next time the pressure rises, when the inbox floods, when tensions run high, return to your breath, return to your values, return to your calm, and let the storm pass around you, not through you. Because in the end, the most professional person in the room is often the calmest one. Thank you for watching and reflecting with us today. If this message resonated with you, if you're ready to carry Stoic calm into your career, your relationships, and your life, then subscribe to the Stoic philosophy. This is just the beginning. New insights, new stories, new strength every week. And together, we'll build a quieter, clearer, wiser life, one moment at a time. I'll see you in the next video. Stay grounded, stay human, and remember, calm is your power.